Welcome to Wine Soundtrack South Africa. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world. In 30 answers, discover their stories, personalities, and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of Wine Soundtrack. This is Marina Kalo, and today I'm joined by Bertho van Westhuizen from Alto Wine Estate. Bertho, a very warm welcome. Can you please tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, Marina, I was brought up. I was born in Stellenbosch, brought up in Stellenbosch as well. Went to school here. After school, went to university, and I was born in a winemaking family. My grandfather was a viticulturist, and my father was a winemaker here before me, and also for a long, long time at Neerlingshof. So yeah, I was virtually born in the winemaking industry, and what a wonderful industry to be in. Yeah, very, very happy to be here, and I've got so many memories. It's an unbelievable industry to be in. So yeah, very, very happy.
Alto has quite a history. It's been around for quite a long time. Tell me, where is the farm itself located?
Yeah, we are located between Stellenbosch and Somerset West on the Helderberg, on the slopes of the Helderberg. So we north facing. So as you drive from Stellenbosch to Somerset West on the left hand side, we go from approximately 100 meters above sea level to about 500 meters above sea level, and that I think is something really special. So you get to work with wines or grapes that are grown on various altitudes, and obviously contributing different flavor profiles to the end of the blend, or to the blend at the end. So yeah, very, very easy to find us on the Annandale Road up on Helderberg.
The famous Golden Triangle. And how many hectares of land do you have under vine at the moment? I see there's a whole new vineyard being replanted here in the front. What are you working with at the moment?
Well, at the moment we are in a huge replanting program. So we have 12 hectares of young vines, then we have 12 hectares of open land at the moment that was taken out last year, so it's in a resting phase now, and then we're going to plant another 12 hectares this year. So of the total arable 93 hectares, currently we have 36 open, so it's quite a big number, but that's what we have to do in order to get the best quality in the soil, and yeah, so that's where we are now.
And usually what is your annual production?
Annual production in terms of tonnages will be around we average between 8 and 9 tons per hectare. Obviously, working now with aging vineyards, it is a little bit lower than it used to be. But then that's one of the main reasons for the replanting. But yeah, so if you look at that, we're probably harvesting between 700 and 800 tons, which in a really good year. Currently, we are doing about 600 with the hectareage that we have.
And you produce red wine. It's red and a little bit more red, just for good measure. Tell me a bit more about the range. Red wine has been, we're the oldest red wine only estate in South Africa, so we're not going to change that. So we do 5 cultivars, mainly focusing on Cabernet Sauvignon, a good chunk of Cabernet Franc. Cabernet Franc works very well in the Helderberg, especially the north-facing side of Helderberg. Good chunk of Shiraz, and then about 10% is covered between Merlot and Piet du Toit. Yeah, so it's red wine country. We've put our focus and our emphasis on that, and we currently have 5 wines in our portfolio. So we have the very famous Alto Rouge. Many people will refer to the farm's name as Alto Rouge, but it's not called Alto Rouge, it's actually Alto, but that shows you how strong the brand is. And then we have our estate range, which is a Cabernet and a Shiraz. And then we have an estate blend, which is basically focusing on the 3 main varieties we have on the farm. So it's always a leading Cabernet Sauvignon, and then either or Cab Franc or Shiraz and Cab Franc. And then we have M.P.H.S, which is our icon wine, basically made in honor of the previous 4 winemakers. So I'm number 5, so it's in honor to them. I love the fact that it's a very concise, very clear and very succinct range of wines. But I really want to touch just on that famous Alto Rouge, because this year really is an important year for Alto Rouge. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, we've been commercially producing Alto Rouge for the last 100 years, so it's a commercial wine that we've produced, which is really, really special. I think there's a lot of farms in the old days in South Africa and in the Stellenbosch region. We used to produce wine 100 years ago
but most of the grapes went to co-ops, and that's where the focus was. But everyone made a little bit of wine on their own. So if you go to all these old properties, you'll find this is the old wine cellar, and this is where the old caper used to be, and this is what we did here, and my grandfather's father or whatever. So that's one special part of history. But I think the only brand in South Africa to have 100 consecutive vintages is really something special. The first couple of vintages was exported in bulk, in barrel actually, to the UK, to negotiants in the UK, in London. And yeah, so being part of that little bit of history, we're just the custodian of that, and trying to make an impact and then handing it over sometime to someone else. Yeah. But Alto Rouge is something that is really dear to my heart. It's not just a Coca-Cola wine, which I sometimes refer to. It's not something that we just gooi everything together and hope for the best. It's not like that. We really put emphasis in every single block, every single vineyard, every single vine that produces wine for Alto Rouge. So it's very special and still the same quality as anything else.
And what goes into the Alto Rouge?
Yeah, well, that's a focus on the 5 varieties. So obviously, the Cab Sav being not always the leading variety because our estate Cabernet Sauvignon takes a lot of the volumes. But it's basically a blend between the 3 main cultivars, Cab Sav, Cab Franc, and Shiraz. A little bit of Merlot, and Piet du Toit is like salt and pepper. Everything that you cook without salt and pepper is really bad, but too much is also bad. So it's just the right amount of Piet du Toit. Yeah.
Very nice. So let's talk about the markets where Alto is available. Obviously, South Africa, it does incredibly well here. In fact, the Alto Rouge, I think, is one of the best-selling SKUs in its price point for what it is. Where else can our listeners, for example, get some Alto?
Well, in South Africa, obviously, we are number 2 in the price bracket. Behind a really nice wine, which is produced by Canoncop, which I really adore as well. Very good quality. But Alto Rouge has always been quite small in the export. We currently sell 95% of our produce locally. So in South Africa, it's a household entity. I mean, we get people here that tell you about the day they got married, and that was the wine of the ceremony, and that's like 50 years ago and 40 years ago. So I had this idea of everyone needs to come and write a little piece on their own history on Alto Rouge. But that just shows you how part of South Africa it is. I think the biggest challenge now for us is to duplicate the footprint internationally, but definitely not neglecting our current footprint in South Africa. We really want to go from strength to strength and make sure that we actually do more and gain more market share in South Africa and still produce the best quality. I think Alto Rouge has always been known for a wine that completely over-delivers at the price point, and a lot of my friends always used to, give me a lot of grief about it. Yes, but the wine is too cheap. Yes, it is too cheap, but I think it offers some really, really good quality at a price point that that's still affordable. Although everything is becoming so much more expensive, but I think our biggest challenge is getting the wine international exposure and duplicating the volumes that we have in South Africa, because we have the land, we have the property, we have the wine, we have the quality. We just need the market.
The market's there, definitely. Just give it a little bit of time and some grinding. You'll definitely get there. Tell me, you mentioned you come from a winemaking family. It's all in the blood. Did you ever have a moment where you kind of thought to yourself, ooh, this wine stuff is really interesting? Or was it a natural thing that you were just going to go into it as well?
Yeah, it's quite funny because I grew up on Netlingshof and probably spent my first 19, 20 years there. And since I can remember, I've always been involved in the cellar. I loved tractors when I was young, driving around the farm and working with my father. And I mean, often he refers to the story where in those days, I don't know why, but they took the bulling in the harvesting time during fermentation. They went to the top of the tank. I'm not sure to look at the temperature. Nowadays it's a little bit easier, I think. But anyway, and then I was still in my diapers, and he would just tell me to sit on the catwalk 10, 12 meters up in the air and sit still. If you move, there's going to be trouble. So yeah, I think I really enjoyed it from the start, and it wasn't a question. I always wanted to do it, and I really love viticulture as well. So that the combination between winemaking and viticulture and being outside it's just a perfect harmony, I think.
a natural progression for you. Okay, so you've travelled the world abroad, you've been in the industry for a long time, and of course with that comes international travel. Are there any international wines that you've drunk on your travels that have really stood out for you? Wines that have kind of given you goosebumps and you've gone, holy smoke, this is kind of something special?
Yeah, to mention a couple of names will be an error, but I know one of my first trips was in 2007, and I went to Burgundy. Now, I don't produce anything close to Burgundy, but I was so surprised that in their world a wine that can eat up new wood like Pinot Noir does, and it's considered South Africa. If you look at the Bordeaux context, where most of our stuff is like what we produce. You sort of think that, yes, but it's such a elegant style wine, a lot of focus on the fruit and light in color and everything, and it eats up this really aggressive oak as well. So it gives you a little bit of a funny think about it, but it's so that was one thing. One of my first trips that was actually very special. But after that, I must say, the Spanish wines are really fantastic as well. I can't pronounce the names, so I won't be able to tell you any names. But I think everything comes down to, in my little world, I really enjoy Bordeaux style blends. Even the white Bordeaux are really, really fantastic wines. And I really love going back there. I had the opportunity of going back there last year as well. So hopefully every second, every third year, because it's. I think the wines are so expensive. It's more easy to go there and taste it there and fly all the way there to do it, than rather get a bottle over here. So I really, really love Bordeaux wine. Yeah.
Nice stuff. So, what is the most expensive bottle produced here at Alto?
Yeah, well, expensive. I think everything is as expensive, but our M.P.H.S is the icon wine, and it bears the highest price tag. So it's, but I think price is not always referring to what you actually put into the wine in terms of your grape is this cost, and your bottle and your glass and whatever. It's about refinement. It's about a selection process when you get to those wines. I mean, it's a selection process starting from the area where you plant the vineyard, the site, the TLC that you give to the vine, to each and every vine. Sometimes we harvest vines separately. It's fermented in smaller batches, hand-picked, everything is hand-picked, but hand sort of sorted. So that always adds to it, but I think it also, it's not always a referral to what you put in the glass in terms of packaging and labels and whatever. It's just something that's special, that went through a long selection process. You eliminate barrels, loads of things that run into it. Yeah. So not always a price tag that is that funny element. Yeah.
And what is the M.P.H.S made of?
M.P.H.S is actually, it must be really an icon wine. So on Alto, as I mentioned, we have really good Cabernet Franc. We're busy replanting 95% of our Cabernet Franc at the moment. So Cabernet Franc always used to be a really, really good chunk in the blend. If I remember correctly, the first vintage was 2007, and it was 66% Cabernet Franc, and the remainder was Cab Sav, and it was from the two oldest vintages, which were really close together. And then after that, it was a couple of years there, it was 50-50. And then I started playing around during my time with it, and we had a year where the Cabernet Sauvignon was just so much. It just really stood out when it came down to the tasting, and it was 90% Cab Sav and 10% Cab Franc. And that's the current vintage we have, 2017. And funny enough, after that, it never happened again. It was always 50-50 as well. So Cab Franc plays such an important role that even in the year with the Cab was really fantastic. And I think if you speak to anyone about South African wine in 2017, it was really a fantastic vintage. It always, that 10% of Cab Franc just makes such a massive difference in the wine. Yeah.
Tell me, what is your opinion of wine critics and scores and competitions? Is there a place? How should one approach them?
Yeah, I think there's a little saying between our winemakers and producers that, if your lines are not in the water, you're not going to catch fish. So if you want to catch fish, you need to be in competitions, and you need to put yourself up there and say, listen, even in blind tasting or sighted tastings, you need to be there. But that's my opinion. Obviously, when it comes down to your top-end wines, it doesn't really help the wine if the score is really bad and it's an expensive bottle of wine. But I really think that it's more a tool for myself to sort of measure yourself against some others. And even if you don't do well, you have to learn from the process. You go, you taste the wines that did well and see where you can refine your own skill. So definitely, yes, there's definitely a place for everyone under the sun, and you just have to know how to use it. But there are so many competitions currently, you can't be everywhere. But I think if you pick a couple and really try and make the most of it, then yeah, definitely worth it.
Bertho, do you have a hangover cure?
No. I think, a lot of people, obviously, they ask you, yes, but they drink this specific wine and then they have a headache the next day and so on. And I just say, listen, if you drink less, you're probably not going to end up there. But don't drink less, just get some headache pills or whatever. But no magic cure.
Drink more wine, hair of the dog, I say, for sure. Producers walk through their vineyards or in their cellars and either talk to the wines, some play their vineyards music, that kind of thing. Is there anything that you do that kind of connects you with either your vineyards or the wine in the cellar?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some, I won't say, alternative methods of communicating with your vines. I don't have something special. I think it's always also an old saying that the best fertilizer you have is the footprint of the winemaker in the rows, and that really comes down to being there, being involved, even in winter time. See what's happening in budding when that first little leaf makes its appearance. Go look at it, see where you are, and I do a little bit of cycling, mountain biking, and we've got this beautiful slope, so it really tires you out. So I have a lot of time when I ride up to the top to look around and to really focus on everything, and then if you get too tired, you take a row and you rest for a couple of seconds going straight, and then you take the hill again. So there's a lot of involvement in the viticulture, and I just feel that spend time there. That's the most important. Then you know what's coming into the cellar, and you know what's going to happen inside here.
And you mentioned cycling now, but when you're not busy in the cellar, what takes up your free time?
Well, I guess my kids. They are 12, going on 13, and 10, going on 11. So as you can imagine, the girl is going into their teenager probably years now. So that's very interesting. I've got two. I was born in a family of 3 kids, and we were all brothers, boys, and so I was the middle one. So the daughter side of things is quite complicated for me. So I feel a little bit out of place. I'll leave that to my wife, and then the son is easier to manage. But they obviously take a lot of time. I enjoy outside, enjoy friends. Family still plays a massive role. My brother lives 12 kilometers from here. My parents still live 11 kilometers from here, so we often see each other. My parents-in-law also in town. So a lot of family, a lot of braais, a lot of wine drinking. They do their bit for the industry, I can promise you that. So that keeps me busy.
I love that. Music, are you into any music, any specific genres or artists or styles or anything like that?
Yeah, I think the younger guys will probably shoot me for saying this, but if you think about it, I think anything that was done after the 90s is definitely not on for me. So I think 90s and back, 90s, 80s, I enjoy the music so much. It's I can't, from U2 going all the way to Bruce Springsteen, everything that I can imagine, from everything from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s is fantastic. I don't think music probably existed after 2000, so it feels like that. So that's my choice, and I really enjoy music.
That is a very commonly shared opinion amongst a lot of people, especially anyone going into their 40s and above. Tell me, if you were to take your wife out for a really romantic evening, what wine would you order for her?
yeah, she doesn't enjoy wooded whites, for instance. So if it's white wine, she'll probably go and ask me, is this a nice wine? So I said, well, you have to taste it first, make sure you like it, and then I'll tell you my opinion. But she really enjoys Sauvignon Blanc, sometimes white blends as well, and unwooded Chenin. Yeah, so that's her choice. She still believes white wine summer, red wine winter, so she won't drink like me. I'll drink red wine all over the year. Yeah, lighter style of red wine, but yeah, she enjoys her wine very much.
If you could give a piece of advice to the 18-year-old Bertho, what would it be?
Geez, I would. The one thing that I didn't do was to travel. I mean, it was a different world. Well, it doesn't feel like 100 years ago, but it was some time ago. I think your exposure to international business, international travel, international. Even going there for a harvest or a vintage or whatever is much easier now than it was. And I think I would definitely travel more. But at the end of the day, when you're young and you finish studying, I was still brought up in the sort of environment where you need to go and find a job now. And it was quite difficult. We were just over 50 students qualifying as winemakers at the end of my university year in 2002. So there's no 50 new properties coming onto the map. There's no 50 guys departing the wine industry or whatever. So that was quite a challenge. So you need to find your place. And so I would definitely travel more, definitely.
You're still a young guy, but if you had to say to date, what would you say was your proudest professional achievement so far?
Yeah, I think there was a couple of successes that we really shared in my winemaking journey. I started off in Citrusdal, which is about 2 hours from here. You learned a lot of things there, which was not important to you maybe at that stage, but it was incorporated into a later stage of life. So that was the biggest win, spending 1 year with Citrusdal farmers, where winemaking was at the bottom of the food chain. It was citrus, it was tea, it was everything. I went there actually to try and change the name of the town from Citrusdal to Wine Valley, but that didn't happen. So, and after that I joined Clanazal, so we had numerous successes with not only in terms of prizes and awards, it was also in terms of volumes, and we built a really nice brand there. So that was fantastic. I think the Chenin Blancs of Clanazal is still fantastic. The Reds, Cab, Shiraz, it's really something that comes to mind. Sauvignon Blanc, obviously, being close to my heart, what I learned there. And then moving to Boschendal, I think there was a huge focus on Shiraz at the time when I got there. And it was, fortunately in my time, going over to my love for Cabernet. So I think they had a wonderful couple of blends, and you weren't bound to a specific style. It was just make a good wine, whatever it was. And fortunately for me, I could have a lot of Cabernet in the blend. So I think Cabernet played an important role there. Shiraz, I learned a lot of things about other areas where Boschendal got grapes from. And then moving here, I think every day is obviously a challenge. But in terms of awards, I think the last couple of years have been really kind to me. We had our first 5-star Platter Award. We had the Red Blend of the Year Award, which was something that we never achieved before, so that was really something special. We got good marks from Tim Atkin. I think even for the, well, not even, but I think for Alto Rouge being such a big blend and achieving such nice scores from the critics is obviously very nice. So yeah, it's not about awards all the time. It does make you feel better, but I think André van Rensburg used to say that if you have a wine list in your cellar and next to the wine it says sold out, then you've done your job really well. So I think the market must be happy. People must share stories and be fond of your wine, and I think then the rest will happen. Yeah.
So if you could share a bottle of wine with anyone in the world, alive or dead, any bottle of wine, what would the wine be and who would the person be?
Oh my word! This will take some time. I think there are many people that obviously influence your career, and I've still hopefully got at least another 20 vintages to go. So, geez, no, I really can't think of someone special enough now. I would love to take at least 20 guys with me, or ladies, and it will be red. It will be a red wine. I think and I often stand in front of people doing tasting, and then people say, yeah, but what's your favorite wine? I said, but my favorite wine is red wine. And they often ask me, but what is your, why is red wine? So then I just ask them, listen, but if you can think of the best wine you've had that shot the lights out, one wine, and 90% of them will say it's a red wine, maybe 10%. My white wine friends will kill me, but anyway, but I think red wine is here to stay. So it will be a red wine, and I will definitely fall back on what I really love, and that'll be a Bordeaux style wine, whether it's international or local. But I'll probably stick to local. There's a couple of really, really favorites, not to mention names now.
Okay. Do you think that we'll still be drinking wine in 2,000 years' time, and if so, what will they look like?
Yeah, I think we will. If you look at history, it's been 2,000 years more or less since, I don't know history that well, we'll have to ask Emil. But I think wine's been produced for at least 2,000 years, and what has changed? I think we've refined some methods, yes. Are the wines better that we produce now in the world, not talking about South Africa, in the world, than it was 100 years ago? I wasn't there, can't say. Will our wines last as long as some of the wines that we still drink today? I'm not sure. We have a lot of pressure from consumers to obviously make it more accessible from a younger age. But will it last? Once again, not sure. So I think it will definitely exist. Definitely not the same market. I think we see that changing every day. But I think the changes that we've had in the last 10 years, and there's been some dramatical changes from the consumer side. But I still think if you have quality, you will always prevail. And I think fashion is a trend. If you go back to quality and style, is not a trend. It's something that you either have or you don't. And if you stick to quality, you stick to the right varieties, and you stick to the right winemaking practices, then I'm sure you will succeed.
Is there a winemaking region anywhere in the world that you'd really like to explore?
Yeah, I actually had a friend here today that I saw when we were in Matric the last time. And he lives in Australia. Now my brother also lives there. So I said, well, I'll try a combination of Rugby World Cup 2027, a visit to my brother, and a visit to Australia. And I think I've never been there. I've tasted a lot of Australian wines, but I'd really like to visit it. I've been to South America. Haven't visited the wine regions per se, but I've had a lot of wine tasting and enjoyment there. Really like to visit Argentina and Chile hopefully soon. So, but that's definitely for the winemaking side. I think Australia is more for the rugby family wine side. So, yeah.
Watch out, Australia 2027. We're just about done, but before I finish up, I'd like to play a game with you. So I'm going to mention 3 either varieties or styles of wine, and I'd like you to pair each of them with either a song or a music artist or a style or genre of music that you feel kind of portrays and represents the grape or the style of wine. Okay, so we're going to have to do Cabernet Sauvignon.
Cabernet Sauvignon, I think classical music. Yeah, definitely classical music, I think.
Okay. I want to bring in Shiraz because I remember once attending a launch here a number of years ago, and I remember you telling us the story about the Shiraz that is grown here and how virile it is, and you just have to keep cutting back its shoots because it really grows so wildly, and that memory always stays with me whenever I think of of Alto. It's one of those funny things that happens. So Shiraz.
Shiraz is always some sort of a wild child. So I often say that Shiraz is so fertile it can grow in a rock. So I think that's definitely more towards the wild side. Maybe 80s. Yeah, there were some really interesting people in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. So yeah, I would say 80s.
Okay, and then I think I'd like to finish off with Cabernet Franc.
Gee, if you asked me beforehand, I would say, see, Cabernet Franc is such a classical variety, so maybe it also leans more towards the classical side of music. But on the other end, I think we're only realizing, not us as a producer, but I think people are also realizing the strength of Cabernet Franc and what it brings to not only blends but in single cultivars as well. So I would go for the definitely more modern music, maybe maybe something of the 90s, because after 2000 there's really a lot to mention. No, being silly now. No, so I would think, if I think about Cabernet Franc, I think it's a younger variety in terms of what people are exploring currently. I think with Stellenbosch coming through, putting a lot of emphasis on Cabernet Franc, and with the Raads obviously being in Cabernet Franc all the time, and Rainbow's End, and there's a whole host other. And that's happened in the last couple of years. So I think, definitely more the modern side of music.
Very cool. Bertho, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Before we sign off, please just share with our listeners where they can find Alto online and what they could expect if they were to make their way to Stellenbosch, to the winery itself.
Yeah, we as I mentioned, just outside Stellenbosch. We've got a website, alto.co.za. Very easy. We also offer, we've opened a restaurant about 1 year and 4 or 5 months ago. It was December 2022. And it was a sort of a slow growing and learning process, going through all the hoops. But we offer some really nice lunches from Wednesday to Sunday, and then also dinners on Wednesday and Friday. So come and join us. We've got a wonderful view all the way through to Cape Town. You can see we actually have Alto Rouge evenings during summertime as well. So every Friday evening we've got a live musician, weather permitting, and you have this beautiful sunset that takes you all the way down to Cape Town. And then we are 100-year. Our tasting room is situated in a 100-year-old building. That was the original cellar. So obviously we share a lot of history, very relaxing, and just easy.
Awesome stuff. All the best. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack South Africa. For details and updates, visit our website winesoundtrack.com.